Could you turn that up just a bit? Thank you. Yep. Thank you so much.
Gas is $4.76 a gallon at the start of the weekend. That's AAA. I'm Rita Bowling, KTU.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPG Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPG820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, the WCPG820 Chicago traffic.
Sheridan Road is shut down in Southwest Illinois, Russell Road, and 165 County is the border of that Sheridan Road is shut down. I don't start with Southwest stuff is building. It's not all that it's heavy. Traffic flowing is downtown. I'm going to strip in from 95th Street. Get down here, as the last car was just 40 minutes. This time, that was more normal. How about 21 minutes? 5 7 2 minutes on the road by 8 roads with the overnight hours after 8.
Hey, where's Al Clark? I'm not sure where he is now, but I know where you can find him Saturdays at 11. He'll be right here on WCPG 820 for the Al Clark's radio program. Mega worldwide.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funeral, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial 60 seconds.
Okay.
$30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical expenses. Your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payment. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a proper screen.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tisha. I've been just a little behind today.
323-8137. That's 800-323-8137. Paid for by Final Expense Direct. Chicago's progressive talk. WCPG 820, where facts matter.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
10 seconds.
Going to the right place.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and Ads.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today on Friday, June 3rd, 2022. Wow. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I am so happy to be with all of you today on this beautiful Friday. On this beautiful Friday in Chicago. It's going to be a beautiful Friday in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I hope wherever you are, remember the sun is shining, even if it's cloudy. All right, remember that, everybody. And even if it's dark, the sun is shining somewhere always. I'm Santita Jackson. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. That is my official page. If you want to be my friend, everybody, and I want you to be my friend, please meet me over there at at the Santita Jackson and Friends page. I'm getting ahead of myself. And please, I got a Facebook reached out to me because of the traffic on my page, and they said, look, direct everyone to YouTube. So would you please go over to my YouTube page? Yeah. They kind of track these things, and it kind of helps us to grow. So please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, everybody. Hey, Mark and Linear Bob out there in Silicon Valley, and Linda and Andre and Samantha, Ashley down there in Memphis, sending you much love. Hey, Ann. All right, Carol out there on the left coast, not me. That's my sister out there. All of you, my brothers and sisters, my brother Mark out there in Washington, D.C. Let's talk about the madness. You know, teachers in Ohio have already been empowered to carry guns. But now the training time has been reduced to under a day, 18 hours. What do you think about that? What will it look like? I mean, we're banning teachers from teaching particular topics. We don't even trust them with particular books. And yet, we trust them with guns. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. What do you think of that? Think about it. We're banning books, censorship, no free speech. We're stopping teachers from teaching from a particular perspective. So what about the perspective that allows you to pull a gun on a student? I mean, really, I want to know, what is that going to look like? So we have an all-star lineup. Of course, Commissioner Brandon Johnson, who has his own show here on WCPT. Cook County Commissioner, for those of you who are out of state, Illinois Cook County Commission, it's one of the most powerful positions in the state, and in one of the largest governments on earth. So we can't wait to hear from him. Of course, he's been with the Chicago Teachers Union, which endorsed my brother. I'm so glad about that. But let's talk with him and Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Jennifer Bishop, formerly of the Brady campaign. We've got a lot to talk about today, everybody. A lot to talk about. We're going to be talking with Medea Benjamin from Code Pink and Bryce Green from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting about the slippery slope that this veteran, brilliant peace activist says that she sees as Ukraine is getting advanced missiles from the United States. Missiles that many fear could touch Russia. The president has said no, but they shoot at a much longer range. And they're getting much more powerful weapons. What will all of this mean? Are you prepared for a long-term war? Axios is reporting that engagement on the war has declined significantly. We're 100 days in. You know, people get fatigued. You know, the first few days, first few weeks, people are excited, then they move on. Remember when Katrina was at the top of the news? Think about that. So let us think about that, everybody, because now, as we're paying less attention, it appears that the president is becoming more aggressive. What does that mean? What does that mean? What price will we all pay for that? And is there a pathway to peace? Like, really? Is there one? So, okay, well, we've got a lot to talk about today. And of course, Dr. Shanina Knighton is going to give us some information about how you can protect yourself as we're getting out here in the summertime. It's just beautiful now. I'm trying to put all my wool clothes away and whatnot. Yeah, it's summer's just about here. But kind of keep one of those sweaters out just in case. We are in the Midwest after all. In Chicago, 76 degrees will be the high. It will be sunny. It is already a brilliant and beautiful day. Minneapolis, St. Paul, beautiful day, sunny, 71 degrees. The Dow closed up 435 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 322 points. The S&P 500 closed up 75 points. And guess what? The final started last night. Who do you have? Who do you think is going to win? The Celtics or the Warriors? Well, last night the Celtics did win 120 to 108, but I expect the Warriors to come roaring back. And in the Stanley Cup playoffs, we are almost at the championships, everybody. Avalanche 4, the Oilers nothing. Shut them out. And in Major League Baseball, well, the White Sox fell to the Blue Jays. Blue Jays 8, White Sox 3. The Cubs that were triumphant over the Cardinals. Cardinals 5 and the Cubs 7. The Tigers 3, the Twins 2. Come on, Chicago and Minnesota. You got to come on through. And tonight, the sky will be at the dream. You know we have to support the WNBA. Indeed, the head of the French Open said that people are not as interested in women's tennis. Are you kidding me? The two biggest stars in tennis over the past 20 years have been the Venus and Serena show. What? Come on, everybody. Come on. Let us finally do something. That is what the president pleaded with us to do. Indeed, I think he was really talking to the Senate for gun control amid the surge of mass shootings. And not long after he gave this speech, there was another mass shooting last night, everybody. He said, for the children we've lost, for the children we can save, for the children we love, let's hear the call and the cry. Let's meet the moment, my fellow Americans, the president pleaded. Enough. The president's remarks came amid a nationwide wave of mass shootings, including the May 14th white supremacist slaughter of 10 black people in Buffalo, New York by Peyton Gendron, and the May 24th massacre of 19 children and 2 teachers. And let us not forget Joe Garcia, who died just after placing flowers on his wife Irma Garcia's memorial. There's 22 people who really died in Uvalde on that day. His heart was taken from him. And by Salvador Ramos. We need to call these names, everybody. You need to find out what people's histories are, because there's a lot to be said. I'm not going to excuse people who become angry and bully, but we can be unkind to each other, and you never know what your kindness or unkindness can drive people to do. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. In Ukraine, after 100 days of war, about 20% of Ukraine's territory is now under Russian control, according to President Zelensky, adding that the Donbass region is almost entirely destroyed. Everybody, call us at 773-763-9278 as you react to these headlines, everybody. People are paying less and less and less attention to Ukraine. There has been a 22-fold decrease in social media interactions, likes, comments, and shares on news articles published about Ukraine between the first week of the war and the most recent week, down from 109 million, everybody, get this, to 4.8 million. That trend is reflected in the volume of online media coverage, which has steadily decreased from 520,000 articles down to 70,000 most recently. Do you think that is why we're now getting to be more aggressive? What do you think? 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, and a little sad story from courts. It shows that Tulsa shooting is part of an epidemic of violence at U.S. hospitals. Did you know that America's healthcare and social services industries already have the highest rate of workplace violence, including serious injuries and homicides, according to the 2018 Bureau of Labor Statistics? Had no idea. And Texas Police Union is saying that misinformation is coming from the highest levels, the very highest levels, if you put it, of law enforcement as authorities change the story once again around the Uvalde shooting tragedy, everybody. All right, let's get some good news from Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. You've got to get her book, I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. You can go to Amazon and get it. I See You, Sis. And if you want some more of this, because so many people just love hearing what you have got to say. And I'm so glad to have my sister friend with me today. How you doing, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, a pastor? I mean, this sister's got a church, too. I'm so happy, First Baptist Church out there in Bridgehampton, New York. When I come there for a weekend, I promise you I'm coming. But I'm going to be there in August anyway. There we go. I'm like, what am I talking about? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm already coming, but I'm coming.
That's right. That's right. Coming just for fun.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm going to do the best that I can. But talk to me. What is, we're in the midst of so much tumult and turbulence. Help us to find some good news in the midst of all of these things.
Well, I'm going to tell you today the way that I've told my congregation. As a pastor, I'm given 50 plus week Sundays to shout them and say good things and encourage them. And I can do that as a preacher, but every once in a while as a pastor, I have a mandate not to preach about the life we want, but rather to preach about the life we live in. Mm. And so today I want to talk about the radical response of Rizpah. For those of you who are not familiar, Rizpah is a woman, a mother of the Bible, whose children were handed over by King David to the Gibeonites to be hanged in payment, if you will, for Saul's past sins. Because Saul made an effort to take out that group, they said the only way to make amends of this is give us 7 of his sons. And Rizpah is the mother of 2 of those sons, who, when her boys were hanged, made a commitment to do right by them in death by standing watch over their bodies for 6 months and fighting animals or fighting predators and keeping her boys' bodies safe until they could receive a proper burial. And one can't imagine the agony of Rizpah any more than we can imagine the suffering of the 19 festival fathers and parents as they stood on the sidewalk bare steps from the shooting. Theologian Will Gaffney posits a picture for us of Rizpah as she watches the corpses of her sons stiffen, soften, swell, and sink into decay. As she fights the wing clawed and tooth scavenging night and day, she's there from the spring harvest to the fall rains, as many as 6 months. So that would be March to April to September or October. She's sleeping, eating, toileting, protecting, and bearing witness. The radical response of Rizpah we find is not one of retreat or retaliation or rage, but a reticent resolve to do right by her boys. We find here that Rizpah becomes a mother and a movement all in one. As Smith and McCurry submit, Rizpah does for her boys in death what she could not do for them in life, that is, protect them from predators. And in our modern context, Santita, there are those who would have us believe that all predators are either super or sexual. But let me submit to you today that oftentimes they're often governmental and judicial. Because the real predators are the hypocrites who, according to Miroslav Volf, would pray for a problem that they're unwilling to resolve. But the question is, how does one pray away predators? The reality is you can't. You don't pray away predators, you fight them. The text does not record any of Rizpah's prayers, but as a mother, I'm sure she did. However, we have no recall of Rizpah's prayers, but what it does record is her posture. She kept the birds away and the bodies of her boys by day and night from wild animals. Her boys are hung out there like a smorgasbord of strange fruit that the fowls have never feasted on before. Can you see her? With every swoop, swinging her arms and standing her ground at every growl. We need some people in this world with a radical Rizpah spirit who are willing to face every predator and declare today, you can't have our children, you can't have our seniors, you cannot have our bodies, you can't have our men, you can't have our women, you can't have our families, and you cannot have our communities. They are not up for grabs, and if you want them, you're going to have to come through us. It's sad to say that we did not do right by these victims in life, but we can do right by them in death. How do we do right by them in death? We protect their legacies, we say their names, and we ensure that a quality of life for the living. And how do we do that? I know we've heard a lot about thoughts and prayers, but we have to do more than that. We have to light candles and light up congressional phone lines, sing songs and shout to the Senate. We don't wait to fight the flock when people are dead. We fight for fresh food while they're living, such as those in Buffalo. We don't lose sleep and watch over them in death. We stay woke and keep watch now. We pray and petition, vigil and vote, protest and procure, faith and work. Betty Lou Hamer said you can pray until you faint, but unless you get up and try to do something, God is not going to put it in your lap. Or Dr. King said we must learn that to expect God to do everything while we do nothing It's not faith, it's superstition. And do you know what God says about this? In Isaiah chapter 58, the Jewish people were wondering why God had not acknowledged their prayers of fasting. And God says this, because the kind of fasting you do won't get your prayers off the ground. Do you think this is the kind of fast I'm after, a day to show off humility, to put on pious long faces and parade around solemnly in black? No, this is the kind of fast I'm after, to break the chains of injustice, to get rid of exploitation in the workplace, to free the oppressed, to cancel death. God says, what I'm interested in seeing you do is sharing your food with the hungry, inviting the homeless and the poor into your home, putting clothes on the shivering ill-clad, being available to your family. If you do this, then the lights will turn on, and your lives will be turned around at once. Your righteousness will pave your way. The God of glory will secure your passage. Then you will pray, and God will answer. And I'll call out and say, here I am. God honors prayers, but God honors a radical response. And more than just current events, maybe in your own life, are you wondering today where God is? Why God has not responded? Maybe God is waiting for you to make a radical move. Your radical response to what you're going through is what's going to make God have a radical response. When you're triggered, God gets triggered. And so today we ought to live our lives in radical response, not just to what's happening in our world, but what's happening in your life. Today, we're calling on the Rispas for a radical response.
Amen. We are not superstitious. We are people of faith. You must do something. It's just like trying to lose weight. You just keep on eating, honey. That doesn't work. You got to put in the elbow grease. You must do that too. Personal issue of mine. I'm just saying. And we all have them. But you got to do something. My mother gave a sermonette years ago in which she said, Jesus needs some street fighters. Street fighters. Get out in these streets and do something. Get out here. I love you, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. Oh, boy, we ran a little late today with this, but I did too. And I just want to thank you, because, in fact, we pulled up something that is directly impacting Dr. Shanita Knighton. They are going to carry guns into the teachers, have been empowered to carry guns into the school with barely 18 hours training. It's unbelievable. But you know what? I wanted to ask her, really, and that's a public health issue, and we can get into that another day. We're right here on the verge of summer. I mean, we're here. And one of the things that I love about Dr. Knighton's social media, at Hey Dr. Nina, these infographics that she gives us about how we can protect ourselves. If you really want to protect yourself. Dr. Knighton, in a bow, in about 4 minutes, can you tell us just what would you advise us to do as people going out to eat, eating outside, as opposed to eating indoors in the restaurant, and just on and on and on, the cookouts? What would you caution us to do this weekend?
Good morning. So first and foremost, I would want to say, make sure that you are aware of where you're going. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if, yes, you are going to the cookout, but you know that there are individuals that don't care about infection prevention and control, just be aware that likely that's going to show up when it comes down to eating, when it comes down to cleanliness, when it comes down to prevention. If we're talking about going out to restaurants, still think about any setting, hand hygiene being the first thing as your line of defense. Inside of facilities, we know that infection prevention and control has gone away because people thought the pandemic was over, and I call it willful blindness right now, where individuals see the numbers going up, they know that COVID exists, they know that it's dangerous, but people choose to ignore it because they have COVID fatigue, where everyone wants to be past the pandemic, even though people are still dying and suffering. So when you think about that, when you're talking about the company that you keep, whether it's going out to eat, being outside, being inside of a restaurant, it's really understanding, doing a litmus check on the people that you're around. if they're those individuals that don't abide by infection prevention and control practices, that person that you're with right then and there could be your culprit of you getting COVID. So if that is the case, then just understand that you should be cleaning your hands, distancing as much as possible, making sure that your eating is correct. So are you able to, if you did get COVID, is your immune system strong enough to be able to encounter it for you to recover? It's thinking about those simple things. And I understand that they're really not so simple when you have to put them all together. The other piece is even too, when you're going out to eat, waitresses want to help you. They're very friendly, but no one should be hovering over you talking, and no one should be hovering over your food. And that is important. And I see it often where you have waitresses that will be carrying food, and as they're carrying the food in their hands, they're talking to their colleagues. So they're talking all over your food before it makes it to your table. And so it's okay for you to ask questions like that. Say, hey, I want to keep you safe. I want to stay safe. Can we talk about, potentially maybe you just looking away when you're serving food or not talking? I tend to bring up as a conversation that's light ahead of us even doing anything. But I would tell you this, so many people do so much stuff out of habit that I told somebody not to put condiments in the bag directly over my food. And they'll say, yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. But guess what? When I make it to the window, the condiments are sitting directly over French fries or whatever it is inside of that bag. So it's really understanding that you have to be your own CEO and your own champion in regards to infection prevention while going out to eat or going out anywhere or even having people over. Because at this point, so many people have forgotten that you have to understand you're the one that's going to be not only just protecting yourself, but you'll be protecting them.
Wise words from Dr. Shanita Knight. And go to @HeyDrNina, @HeyDrNina. I'm telling you, I go to see what she has posted every single day. I want to know because that's how, I'm looking at when I went out to dinner with my father last night. I had a wonderful time at Chicago Chicken and Waffles. And I was watching everything that all of the servers did. I was watching everything. It's a very safe and wonderful restaurant. Love them. That having been said, everybody, please be careful. Please be careful and don't talk over the food. Oh my gosh, please don't do that. Dr. Knight, we have something going on in your state. Gun-toting teachers. That's at the top of the next hour. But right now we're talking with Medea Benjamin of Code Pink, co-founder of Code Pink. Yes, that Medea Benjamin, and Bryce Green, about the escalation of our engagement, United States engagement in Ukraine. What will all of this mean as we are paying less attention? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Just a minute. Dr. Knighton?
Yes.
Girl, I am like so paranoid when I'm out. No, I'm not paranoid. I'm hyper aware. Yeah, let me not put a negative spin on that. And I really want to thank you for that. I really, really want to thank you for that. But we have got to figure out a way to get you before restaurant owners. Because people need to know that their staff need to be trained. I thought about that. Huh?
It costs money, so that's one. And the other piece of it is, if I have tried to even take that approach, and I can tell you now, the most interesting thing is how I mentioned willful blindness. If people ignore the problem, then they don't have to correct it.
Well, now there's that. There is that. No, you got it. There's that. There is that. It's just, you have made, I'm not going to call it paranoid because I'm not paranoid in this regard anyway. I'm just hyper aware, hyper aware. And I want to thank you for that because you've made me look at every little thing. And I see a lot of things that we do. Please, I have to catch myself doing a lot of things too. that having been said, it's now we're out here, and people are still contracting COVID. People are still dying. Vaccinated, boosted, all of that. So clearly, I mean, that's not the only answer. There are layers of protection that you need, everybody. And if you are not strong, if you are not healthy, honey, let it go. If we've learned anything, COVID has aggravated, and um, it has aggravated problems. It has revealed problems, and that is a good thing.
Price screen and Medea Benjamin through. I did not get an answer for a while. I tried calling her twice.
Okay, no worries. She's getting ready for her. Medea Benjamin, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, I was talking to Dr. Shanina Knight, and she's an infection preventionist. She's a clinical research scholar at Case Western Reserve University, registered nurse, absolutely brilliant. I did not even know that particular profession existed. But she has been guiding us through this pandemic, helping us to understand the big and little things that we need to do to protect ourselves, like how to wash your hands. Number one, the importance of washing your hands, how to wash your hands. COVID coming in through the eyes, the nostrils, and the mouth. All these little things, gargling. She has been an absolute Jew. And even how to serve our food. I do not do family style anymore. Not at all. So stand by, Medea Benjamin, my heroine. And Devonshire Pearl's daughter's getting married on Sunday. Now, even though she got some help, she's doing that wedding too. Bless her heart.
Of course. 10 seconds, everyone.
Thank you. That's right, Joyce. Vigilant.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. As the president is pleading with us to do something about violence, we do have a violent conflict happening halfway around the world in Ukraine. And where will this go? As the world is beginning to look elsewhere, according to these news reports from Axios, the engagement that we have on Ukraine has decreased significantly, 22-fold, in fact, in social media interactions, likes, comments, sharing. There was a high of 520,000 articles. Now it's down to 70,000 and declining. Do you think that is because we're paying less attention? And maybe because we feel that our side is winning, whatever that really means. Even as we're giving more money, as there is no attachment to a peace process with that money. The question is, where are we going with all of this? Well, Medea Benjamin, co-founder of Code Pink, and Bryce Green, who is Fairness and Accuracy Reporting, Medea Benjamin has said, you know what? We're on a slippery slope, and it just got a lot steeper, because it seems that we are amping up our engagement, giving stronger weapons, and all of that. We welcome back to the show, really a personal heroine of mine, Medea Benjamin, co-founder of Code Pink, brilliant peace activist. The slippery slope just got a lot steeper. You got to explain that, Medea Benjamin. When I read that headline and when I read what you said further, it sent chills up and down my spine. Medea Benjamin.
Well, good morning. Nice to be on with you. And sorry we have to talk about such deadly issues, whether it's gun violence in the United States or the violence happening around the world. And we expect that our leaders would do something to stop the violence, like gun control here at home, and like being peacemakers around the world. And unfortunately, when it comes to Russia's war in Ukraine, which Russia should never have started, instead of being peacemakers,
we have been adding fuel to the fire. The most recent is the Biden administration's announcement that it is sending advanced missile systems into the fight that will allow the Ukrainians, if they want it, to target inside Russia, which would mean the U.S. is really involved directly then in a war with Russia. Biden says he doesn't want to do that, and yet by giving all of these anti-tank missiles, these Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, these powerful rocket systems, we are indeed getting closer and closer to a direct war with Russia.
What would a direct war with Russia look like? I mean, we're looking, for example, at the families in Uvalde, and at least a couple of the parents have said, I want to take a page from Emmett Till's mother, Mrs. Mamie Till. I think I might have an open casket so you can see what these weapons of destruction did to my child. What would a war with Russia look like? And would it just stay contained to Ukraine? I mean, what could the fallout be, Medea Benjamin?
I think we have to be realistic and understand that a war with Russia could very well be a nuclear war, which could be annihilation of the world as we know it. We have allowed ourselves as a, quote, civilization to build up tens of thousands of nuclear weapons. Russia has most of them. The United States coming in number two. Between the two countries, 95% of the nuclear weapons. These weapons are supposed to be there as a form of, quote, deterrence. But when it comes down to it, if the two nuclear-armed countries were fighting each other, you got to think that they're going to use nuclear weapons. So it really is earth-shattering to contemplate what a war between the U.S. and Russia would look like. Unfortunately, we've got to start thinking about it more so that we do more to prevent it. I would like to see not only President Biden, but I would like to see all of Congress asking, what is our peace plan? They were so quick to vote for $40 billion more to support Ukraine, but we have to ask, what does support Ukraine look like if there's no peace plan? If there's no effort to say, we are sure that this war is going to end at the negotiating table, and so why don't we make that happen now instead of 6 months from that or a year from that, or allow this to become a direct fight with Russia? And I don't see Biden doing that. I have never heard Biden say, this is our peace plan, and we're going to use all our power as a country that has influence throughout the world to get China on board with the peace plan, to get Turkey on board with the peace plan, to get all of NATO on board with the peace plan. I mean, wouldn't that be real leadership, Santita?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But when Senator Joe Manchin goes to the World Economic Forum and says, there is no path to peace, we just have to win the war. What do you do? What does that say?
Well, that tells you that we don't have real leaders in this country who will move us away from this death and destruction. You know, we saw 20 years of U.S. wars since 9/11. The kind of destruction we're seeing in Ukraine now, unfortunately, the American people didn't see, but the rest of the world saw in Afghanistan, in Iraq, even in Syria. Perhaps if we had seen that kind of destruction with entire cities leveled, we might have said no to more NATO expansion. We might have been quicker to sit down with Russia to say, how do we find a way out of this? How do we ensure the security of Ukraine and Russia? But instead, we keep going down the path of militarism. We have a military that budget that is 10 times that of the rest of the world combined, and we don't have people in power who take peacemaking seriously. I mean, I find it just remarkable that there wasn't one Democrat who stood up at this last vote, like we had Barbara Lee the time around when it was a vote to go into a war in Iraq we should never have been in. This time, there was no Democrat that stood up and said, this is not the answer. It's only going to escalate the conflict. There were some Republicans who stood up, but not one Democrat.
Well, let me ask you that then. I mean, because reflexively, peace advocates like yourself, well, not you, but many peace advocates like yourself, and certainly I and Democrats push for peace, right? And then whatever in this toxic environment, what Republicans do bad, Democrats do good, depending upon where you sit in this particular on the political spectrum. But it is kind of surprising, or is it surprising, given the money that the military-industrial complex invests in politics? Is it surprising to you that Democrats have really stood down on this? They have not attached any of them. I mean, Zelensky asked for $2 billion a month. Then the counter was $33 billion a month from us, and then we gave him $40 billion. It's $100 million a day as of last week. Medea Benjamin, I mean, there's no attachment of that money to peace. Even Kissinger called for peace at the World Economic Forum. He said, "Look, the Ukraine needs to go on and work this out." The global South are saying that. Lula da Silva, who speaks for so much of the global South, said, "Hey, we don't have to be here. In fact, negotiate your way out of it," which is what Zelensky has said. Why are there no negotiations that we're really hearing about?
Well, I think it's so important to be pushing the Democrats. We have a progressive caucus that has 100 members of Congress on it, and not one of them spoke out against the $40 billion. What does a progressive caucus mean? What do they stand for? If in times like this, they're not the ones who say, wait, hold on a minute. There's got to be a better way. I guess, we as the peace movement have been derelict in our obligations to force them. We've been trying, Santita, to get people to contact their members of Congress to really make a big stink about this. And, some of them do, but most of them don't. When I talked to a staff person for Bernie Sanders recently and said, Bernie Sanders voted for $40 billion to keep this war going, he said, well, we didn't get many calls into our office. And I think, well, wait, first, doesn't he vote his conscience? And second, why aren't we getting many calls into his office? So there are two things here. One is we have to be more vocal and contact our congresspeople and say, this is not the way to peace. And the other is we have to question why it is that saying that more money for this war is seen as pro-Putin rather than being seen as pro-peace, meaning we have to change the dialogue. And the way you're talking now, Santita, is not the kind of message we hear on the mainstream news. So I fault a lot of this with the way that the mainstream news has been focusing this from the beginning, pulling the whole issue of NATO expansion, championing the putting fuel on the fire and the expansion of this war. So we need to educate the public, and we need to pressure the people who are supposed to represent our best interests. And our best interests are certainly not moving closer and closer to a war with Russia.
Medea Benjamin, everybody, call 202-224-3121. That's Congress. 202-224-3121. Admire you so much, Medea Benjamin, and thank you so much for talking to us about this slippery slope, as you said, that just got a lot of steeper. Ironically, we're paying less attention to it. We're less engaged. But now we're giving more money. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Medea Benjamin. Can't wait to have you back on the Santita Jackson Show.
Thanks so much for having me on and for giving a shout out to people to call Congress.
Absolutely. I'm following your directions. I'm following you.
You gave out the number. That's great.
I love Medea Benjamin, everybody. So much courage and just really standing up for us. And this is what pro-lifers do, everybody. Bryce Green, fairness and accuracy in reporting. Medea Benjamin just brought up how the media are reporting this. You know, everyone, you, me, have been accused of being Putin sympathizers because we're calling for peace, which is, to me, absolutely, it's wrongheaded. You know, I'm going to call for peace. Wherever I see conflict, I'm going to call for it. But she did talk about this slippery slope, and Axios is reporting that more and more Americans are less and less engaged in this by a decrease of 22-fold, for example. And it's decreasing by the week. And yet, as we're watching the decrease in engagement, social media, the discussions, it's now, well, the shootings have taken first place in the news. But now, the conflict is really amping up. Is that me, or is it just my imagination, Bryce Green?
No, you're exactly right. It seems that at a time when this conflict is entering one of its most dangerous phases, the American public is more disengaged than ever. At the start of this war, the public was engaged with all these slogans coming from the Biden administration. And they were said these slogans like "Stand with Ukraine," and that tugged on people's heartstrings, rightly. You saw images of cities being destroyed. But that was translated into slogans like "Stand with Ukraine," and what that means is just endorse the current ruling party's policy in Ukraine. And right now, the U.S. policy in Ukraine is to escalate things. We're trying to encourage Finland and Sweden to join NATO. We're sending weapons that could reach Russia to Ukraine, and we keep sending more and more weapons. We just passed this multi-billion-dollar aid package. But like you said, there's not really a constituency that's opposed to that. It seems that the bulk of the American public is completely on board. Not a single progressive voice has spoken out against this aid package, and none of the progressive voices are coming out and saying Biden should go to a negotiating table. And in the media, interestingly enough, we're seeing a little bit of a shift. Some of our country's major papers have all come out and said that maybe we need to rethink this Ukraine conflict. Maybe we need to give Russia a way out. Maybe we shouldn't be so gung-ho about starting a nuclear war. There was an op-ed in The Guardian, The New York Times, The Washington Post, all of them saying the same general sentiment. All of them saying the same sentiment that Henry Kissinger voiced at the World Economic Forum, that we shouldn't have a maximalist position about beating Russia. We shouldn't have a maximalist position against negotiations, because that will lead to further destruction. If we want a peaceful world, we have to encourage serious peace talks.
You know, let me go to. Oh, no.
I'm sorry?
No, please continue.
Oh, yeah. Well, that sentiment is being voiced very sparsely in the media, but it's not reflected at all by the political class. Like I said, none of the progressives are taking this stand. That's very troubling, because what Medea Benjamin said about Bernie's office not getting a lot of calls about this, it means that the public is allowing this to happen under their nose. And that's just how the war makers of this country get away with so much of what they do. The public isn't aware of what's going on, and anytime they are, they make up a justification for it. It's because we don't have a sort of anti-war organized left with any serious pull in the country, so their policy goes. And so we might be sleepwalking towards a wider conflict, a greater confrontation with Russia, and that's not something that we should be sanguine about. But that's the as the ultimate failure of U.S. policy. It would be a general war with Russia. And I think we should be a lot more attentive to that.
And it would be such a tragedy, such a tragedy. No one would win. Mark from Orland Park. What's on your mind, Mark?
Rob.
Oh, okay. Well, let me go to, is it Trish? Trish, what's on your mind?
Yeah, what's on my mind is I'd like to know who the authority was, the female authority to whom you were speaking that stated that these long-range missiles that we're sending, their capabilities involve going over the border into Russia. The caveat that was expressed by the administration, which I heard with my own ears, that's the caveat. They are incapable of doing that. And to have somebody on bashing the administration, and let's get them on the phone, let's get our story straight first. You are the media. You are the one that's supposed to be checking these people out before they get on your show. Who was she?
Well, I am checking her out, and the fact that she's one of the world's leading peace activists. And different military figures have said that, just one moment, Trish, that these drones, they're killer drones, they can go into Russia, that the missiles do have the capabilities, depending upon how close they are to the border, can go into Russia. Those are the facts. Now, I mean, and the stories have changed. What we're looking for, Trish, here, and no, I want you to finish because I'm just engaging you. What we're looking for here, no one is bashing the administration. I don't want to see any young man or young woman killed. Ukrainian, Russian, American, anyone European, or anyone else who gets pulled into this conflict. What we're looking for, because it's costing Americans $100 million a day. $100 million a day when Americans need stimulus checks. When Americans, Americans they're suffering out here. What I'm asking for, is some accountability. Where's the money going? And the only person who's asking that is Rand Paul and some Republicans. And then I'm accused of being disloyal. I'm trying to be loyal to the truth. That's what we're looking for. I want Bryce to respond to you, and then I want you to respond to what you hear. Trish, stay right there. Bryce?
Right. As a point of fact, the U.S. has announced that they're sending several $100 million on what are called high mobility artillery rocket systems. And these systems have the ability to fire up to around 50 miles. And there are many points in Ukraine where 50 miles would lead into Russia's border. Now, the Biden administration, I don't remember them saying that these weapons couldn't be used to attack Russia. What they said, according to the New York Times, was that the Ukrainian government, quote, assured them that they won't be used in Russian territory, whatever that's worth. So I think there might be a little confusion there, but these weapons can definitely, they are capable of striking Russia, and it seems that the only thing stopping them from doing that is Ukrainian assurances. And Putin, for his part, has said that this represents a dramatic escalation. And so we have to ask whether or not that's wise policy to escalate the war.
Trish, your response?
Same page with you. Enough money spent after that. I just wanted to verify that fact because I did hear that. I did hear it with my own ears. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, if we're standing here, we're standing there and we're shooting missiles and how far it's going to go. That's what they said. Mm-hmm. They said that they were incapable. Now, that incapability involves our promise from Ukraine saying, indeed, we're not going to be shooting them. I think they know.
I mean, they're incapable, but that's untrue. It's just untrue. Ukraine shares a border with Russia. And depending upon where these missiles are placed, how close they are to the border, they can go into Russia. Technically, that's true.
So we're looking at nuclear war. That's what we're looking at. If that indeed is the fact that they are going to, because Putin knows that those missiles come from the United States. And he blames us directly. And I am on the same page with you. I would not be listening to you on the golf course at 4:30 in the morning.
Wait now, hold it. I don't want to mess up your game, Trish. Trish, wait. Girl, you're making me feel guilty. Oh, gosh. Oh, have mercy, God.
No, I agree with you. I agree. You know, I'm a staunch progressive, and I agree with you. But when I listened to his Biden spokesperson, that's what he said. And I wish I could be able to just play that tape.
Oh, no, wait, Trish, I heard it too. But I said, I just started trying to make, common sense ain't common. And sometimes, when you listen to authority figures, you just say, yeah, I hear you. No, Ukraine and Russia share a border. And depending on where you put these long range missiles that are stronger, bigger, stronger, shoot longer, they're going to go into Russia. They can. They're capable. And you can, and Trish, you can always have an oops moment. Hold that golf club down, because I don't want you to do anything. So what do you think about that? I mean, they are capable. They're capable of going into Russia. They are.
I think what your father has been preaching since I was a kid, and that is more peace, less war, less guns. But the genie's out of the bottle, babe. I mean, when you've got more guns than people. I myself, I am a single woman living in the middle of the desert, Tucson, Arizona. I've got 5 guns, girl, and I use them because I have snakes that come up to the back door, not the good ones, but the rattlers. I need guns. But excuse me, I inherited those from my dad when he passed away, who inherited them from his father. It wasn't like we were going out and looking around for, AR-15s.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And you know what
I'm saying?
Well, I know exactly what you're saying. Everything has changed, because remember, when your grandfather and father had guns, they were hunting. This was not for personal defense. Now these are for personal offense. That's the problem, because look, I support the Second Amendment. I don't have a gun, but guess what? I believe every American has the right to bear arms. I do. But the militia needs to be well regulated if you're going to have one. I mean, but what we're doing now, the NRA used to defend persons. Now they defend corporations. They now defend the gun makers. And that's the problem. For me, I've got about 15 seconds, and they belong to you, Trish.
Well, indeed, I concur with what you say. And when we start talking about velocity is involved. When you talk about an AR-15, which can shoot over 3,000 feet, I mean, it just doesn't belong in the hands of any civilian. I mean, bad enough that it's in the hands of our military and what's going on in the world. And that's all I've got to say about that. We just need control. And I hate to tell you, I just don't feel real confident about it.
Well,
I just don't. But
I don't either. And that's the thing. I think, bottom line, I learned from Mrs. Helen Maybell Anglin, who was a prominent restaurateur here in Chicago. She said, if you want peace, you got to be peace. And I guess that's the only point I'm trying to make. And while you were on that golf course early in the morning, I am honored that even as you disagree and you heard something that made you go, wait a minute, I just want to thank you for calling. From the bottom of my heart and with all of my heart, thank you for calling. Thank you for that.
For taking my call.
Oh, girl, get out of here. Hold on. I'm talking to you during the break. Everybody, let's talk about arming the teachers in Ohio. Back in just a minute. Trish? Oh, okay. I wanted to thank her. And let me thank Bryce. Okay, Bryce? Hey, hon, I want to thank you. I think you are brilliant. I used to have, and I'm going to start doing them occasionally, these talks on like Monday nights that are more extensive talks, and they're smaller talks. And I'd like you to participate in that. And then Reverend did say he wants to revisit talking with David Talbot. So I'd like to talk with you at some point over the next couple of days about that. Oh, Reverend wants to revisit the discussion that we want to have with David Talbot and others. Okay, so I would like to talk with you about that over the next few days. Let me know if you have any availability over the weekend. I've got a tight weekend, but I want to make time for that. Okay. Oh, bless your heart. Look, hey. I'll be glad to do that. But thank you for being with me today. It really means a lot. Oh, absolutely. You and Medea Benjamin got a great start to my day, and Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. I have to tell you, it's been great. Thank you so much. Blessings to you. Bye-bye. All right, everybody, here we are. Here we are, here we are. And we have people listening to us from all over the country. Don't you feel great? Oh, Jewel, thank you, sweetie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me let everybody know what you said. Thank you for that. And I'm really grateful to Trish for calling in. You know, really grateful to her because everybody's not going to agree with you, and so just the respectful engagement is what I really do appreciate. I really, really do. And that's why I'm up half the night because I want to get the facts straight. And if I'm incorrect, please do not hesitate to call me and let me know. Pull me up, let me know. Because I want to get it right. I never thought I'd be here. And I never considered myself to be part of media, but I guess I am. And that's why I take my responsibility to you very, very, very seriously. I try to get the stories right, and I try to bring people to you who offer, I think, a perspective. I know a perspective that so many of you are not hearing. You're not hearing it. No one's talking about peace. You can't get Medea Benjamin, as prominent as she is all over the world. You cannot get her on television. Okay. They don't want her. They don't want me. That's why I'm here, and I'm not on network television. I'm not crying about that. Because that was not, I never expected to even be here. And that's not the price that I want to pay. I'd rather do what I'm doing with you and build this network slowly but surely, with accountability to you. So that is what we're trying to do here. And I really do need your support. Oh, thank you, Nicole. You said we have an amazing, thought-provoking show. Well, you're part of it. That's it. And you tell me, can you call in, Nicole? I'd love to know why you feel the show is provocative. I mean, in a good way. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Let me give you all this number. Boy. Okay, yep, I knew that was messed up. Okay, Devin, were you still there?
Yeah, I'm just finished getting the last guy. We got Brandon Johnson, Dwayne McKee, Dr. Dwayne McKee, Tracy Dickey-Hoffler, and Jennifer Bishop. I'll call Dwight right back.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you. CK?
Good morning.
Hey.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. CK and Jennifer, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted right now. Okay, just one moment. Just had to pull. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone.
Live read. Okay, and Dr. Reeves. Okay, we have Brandon on.
Brandon Johnson, Dwayne McKee, Dr. Reeves, Attorney C.K. Hoffman, and Jennifer Bishop are all here.
Okay, everyone, Jennifer is going to have to leave. So what I'm going to do is give her the runway to react to this. Okay, here's something in the back. I'm going to give her the runway to react to this, and I'm going to let Jennifer go, and then we're going to go on, okay?
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
10 seconds, everyone.
Change the world.
Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, Friday, June 3rd, 2022. The nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT 820. We used to be Air America, but today we're WCPT, the heartland of American progressive talk, everybody. AM 950 radio, my brothers and sisters to the north. The voice of progressive Minnesota. We really occupy a huge space in the Midwest and all around the country. You just heard Trish from Arizona playing on the golf course, wanting to engage. Everybody, please spread the word about these great stations. There are only a handful of us around the country, and we need your support, as many of you need us. We're hearing that the corporate media is just not doing it for you. Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to tell the truth. Facts do matter. I'm Santita Jackson. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Should teachers be armed with less than 24 hours training? It's real simple. What do you think? 773-763-9278. Ohio, Louisiana are coursing toward having these teachers be armed with minimal training. What does that mean? What does that mean? What is that going to look like? What is that going to look like? We won't even let teachers teach certain topics, dispense with certain books. We're trying to ban them. But we're going to trust them with guns? I want to know what your thoughts are about this. Okay, everybody, Chicago is going to be 76 degrees and sunny, and 71 degrees in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and sunny. Beautiful day already, everybody. The Dow closed up 435 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed up 322 points. The S&P 500 closed up 75 points. In the NBA Finals, well, the Celtics had their way with the Warriors yesterday, 120-108. The NHL Stanley Cup. The Avalanche 4, the Oilers, nothing. The Blue Jays bested the White Sox 8-3. The Cubs 7, the Cardinals 5, and the Twins 3. The Tigers 3. I know the Twins wish so. And the Tigers 2. The Sky will be playing the dream tonight, everybody. Let us finally do something. The President entreated all of us to do something about gun violence, and specifically the U.S. Senate. Pass something. We need something that is really going to make a difference, everybody. He said, for the children we've lost, for the children we can save, for the nation we love. Let's hear the call and the cry. Let's meet the moment. My fellow Americans, enough. After walking along to a podium, along a hallway lit by 56 candles representing every U.S. state and territory that has suffered acts of gun violence, he said, it's time for us to do our part. And of course, just shortly after he spoke, there was yet another mass shooting. Wow, everybody. 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Should there be a ban on these assault weapons? What do you think about that? We did have a ban on these assault weapons. Murders went down, everybody. The gunman who killed the 2 doctors and 2 others at the Oklahoma Medical Center in Tulsa did so after he blamed one of the physicians for causing him pain from a recent back surgery. Wow. How tragic. He walked in and he even killed a patient, everybody. The world is looking elsewhere as the war hits 100 days. Indeed, there's been a 22-fold decrease in social media engagement, everybody. Likes, comments, shares on news articles published about Ukraine between the first week of the war and now, down from 109 million to 4.8 million. The trend is reflected in the volume of online media coverage, which has steadily decreased from 520,000 articles to 70,000 articles, and dropping. In the meantime, we're sending longer, stronger missiles. We're sending more money to Ukraine. That is the United States. $100 million a day it's costing us, as media engagement is decreasing. Our engagement is increasing. Something to think about, everybody. All right, as we go to discuss what's happening with the arming of Ohio's teachers with minimal training, I want to remind you that we want to save your home. The American dream is to own a home. And you know what? It is within your grasp, even though you might not think so. If you have poor credit, if you have no credit, if you need to rebuild your credit, if you have massive credit card debt, if you want to purchase a new home, you can do that. If you need to refinance your existing home to keep it up to code or just to make it what you want it to be, if you need to secure a VA loan, if you need to understand what a reverse mortgage is and if it'll work for you, you need to call Team Hochberg. Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID. 855-56-DAVID or go to 56david.com. Let me tell you what's going to happen when you do call them. What's going to happen is you're going to get top service. You will get a free consultation. I beg you, share everything with them. Share everything. They've heard it all. And they've worked through a lot of problems for people. And quite frankly, they're miracle workers. There's another David who posted this 5-star Google review after working with Team Hochberg. He said, quote, my wife and I made good money, but had no way to pay off our credit card debt. Wow, $45,000 in credit card debt they had. And guess what? Team Hochberg eliminated it. And he said it eliminated our stress, saved over $1,000 a month. Think about that, everybody. You can read David's account of his experience with Team Hochberg and so many others if you just go to Google and enter Team Hochberg, Hocberg. I want you to join thousands of WCPT listeners and get a lift. Get a lift. Hey, financial freedom is within your grasp. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. All right, the GOP, they're calling it madness, has passed a bill to arm teachers. That's right, with minimal training. The headline says 24 hours, but actually it's 18. So what do you think about that? I mean, do you feel comfortable with your child in a school with a teacher who is armed? Call me, 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. You know our legal eagle, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Chair of Rainbow Push, and the immediate past president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. The lawsuits I can see, or maybe I can't, I don't know. Dr. Marnie Terrain, of course we know she's one of our morning stars, but she is also one of the leading educators in the country, in the New York City public schools and in the City University of New York system. Yeah, you heard me. She teaches high school and she's a professor in college. Illinois Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, Chicago Teachers Union. Got to thank you all for giving that endorsement to Jonathan Jackson. And hey, the congressional candidates are calling me now, Brandon Johnson. They're going to be on my show. Hey, I've been begging. Dwight McKee, social scientist. But we're going to start with you, Jennifer Bishop, gun victim family survivor. Your pregnant sister and her husband were killed by a family friend, a neighbor. Unbelievable. Who had tried to kill his parents, his family before. Unbelievable. But she's the former national program director for victims and survivors at the Brady campaign. And she's also a history teacher. So how does this make you feel? What's going on here?
25 years in the high school classroom for me, and I'm thinking about now, if this is really the solution. Of course, the gun lobby, the gun wackos in this country, who can never accept less guns. It always has to be more guns. That has to be the solution, because that's the only thing that will maintain their incredibly, insanely high profit margins the gun industry has ever since it took over the National Rifle Association's control in the 70s. And I'm telling you that this is the only thing they can save, because they just want more guns and more guns to be the solution, because they don't care about lives. They only care about money. And I'm a 25-year retired teacher. I can't imagine if they said to me, now this is an additional part of your job description. You understand that there's no way that, if a shooter comes in like most of these shooters have been, in body armor, carrying AR-15s with high-capacity magazines, that you're going to pull out a handgun you've been trained with for a few hours and take them down. That makes no sense, number one. Number two, watch the vacation of these teachers from the profession. You're going to have so many teachers. I mean, already we have a shortage of teachers. Imagine the struggle it will be to make teachers want to stay in their low-paying, hard-working, thankless jobs when they are also going to be required to be police officers, for which they are not being paid. And how much more this is going to add to the trauma and the tension in every single day of life. This is a horrible idea. And it shows what cowards and hateful fools the gun lobby is. That this is their solution.
Well, this is very interesting because, I'm seeing teachers like you're pushed into the public space. And my colleague here at WCPT, part of the reason I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, he kind of pushed me into this job. Illinois Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson. Now, when I met him, he was teaching Chicago Teachers Union. He was a troublemaker then, troublemaker now in a bigger space. But you're a teacher at heart. You're a teacher at heart, and you've got children in the Chicago public schools. Talk to me. What do you make of this? And they're going to have 18 hours of training, Commissioner Johnson, who you can be heard here on WCPT, everybody all over the world. But come to WCPT at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time right here on WCPT. He has a wonderful show. Of course, that's after Keep Hope Alive on Sundays. But Commissioner Johnson, what do you make of this?
Thank you for this important discussion. In fact, I'm actually on my way now, like many parents across this country, dropping my children off. I'm at school, and this is a place that we expect our children to be safe, comfortable. We also expect our educators in the building and all of the support staff to have everything they need to support our children and our students. This is obviously a ridiculous idea, but it speaks to the gross, untethered access that the NRA has to our political system. As our guests and our other panelists already alluded to, the outsized voice that the NRA has in this country it's obviously life-threatening. In fact, it's life-taking. And so what we need people who are prepared and willing to stand up to the NRA. When you have a political system that is more interested in surveillance, the addiction, as Dr. King referred to it as one of the three evils of the world, on militarism, when you have a political system that is more committed and willing to invest in incarceration in jails and militarized forces, then they are willing to invest in a child's education. That's a whack, jacked up system, and we have to dismantle that. I think the other point that should be made clear is that the conditions in which this economy have created and exacerbated is really what we need to be addressing. Santita, at the county level, I'm responsible for a budget that's $9 billion. And if you're not investing in W-2s, if you're not investing in healthcare, if you're not investing in public education, if you're not investing in public transportation, and if you're not investing in housing, you're not serious about addressing the root causes of the evil that is manifesting in our communities throughout this country. And so the madness that you see operating when someone is so deranged that they're willing to take the life of someone else, that madness has to be matched with love. And that love has to be carried out in policies that are prepared and willing to address the conditions in which many of the communities that we live in, the conditions that the people who live there did not create. So we have to be very bold and audacious about calling out the wickedness of the NRA and their unwillingness to recognize how complicit they've been in the lives that have been lost, and then challenge the political folks who are not willing to stand up to them. And Santita, my record is very clear. We've challenged here in Cook County to take a real look at where our investment should be. And our addiction and our spending on jails, incarceration, and surveillance has not yielded any positive results. In fact, it's caused more tension and more trauma. We have to eliminate that from our political structure and then be willing to actually say out loud what needs to work. And what needs to work is investment in lives and not in guns.
Illinois Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, every Sunday here on WCPT, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Do not miss the show. Dr. Marnie Reeves. You all know Marnie as a morning star, but she is actually Dr. Marnie Reeves, PhD. She is a professor in the City University of New York system, but she is also a teacher in the public school system, and she is also a leader in the union movement. So she's covering the whole waterfront. you've got to help me to understand what do you make of this? I mean, because it's not just in Ohio, Dr. Reeves. This is Louisiana, and I have a feeling it's going to spread. Even Ted Cruz is talking about having one door. I mean, I'm like, are you a fireman? That doesn't even make sense to me. That's unsafe to have hundreds, if not thousands. How many kids are at your school? Talk to me. What does this make? What do you think this is going to look like? What do you think of this law?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Santita. When I first read the article, I thought it was just one of the worst things that anyone could ever have dreamed of. First and foremost, I don't think any of the people who are sitting there and putting these legislations in place really are thinking about the needs of the children, the needs of human beings, as a matter of fact. When I read about the doors being closed and only one being opened, I thought about New York State law as it relates to fire and safety. And we do our fire drills, 14 of them every year. You can't go to one exit here. We have schools starting from elementary all the way up to high schools that have scanning every single day. So when I'm hearing someone say, well, now arm teachers. So on the one hand, you don't want to buy books for the teachers to teach effectively in the classroom, but now you want to give them guns. No one is really thinking about the real issue of guns being available on the streets and trying to manage that. They're instead putting the responsibility, as usual, on teachers, not just to educate, to nurture, to guide and prepare. Now you're saying that we are supposed to be the police officers to prevent anyone from coming in to harm our children. But then what about us? So no one's addressing the real mental health issues. So on the one hand, gun distribution. Okay, the gun laws based on this law will never happen. There will not be a law put in place that limits access. That's obvious. You won't deal with the mental health issues that are out there, okay? And we deal with them. We deal with them on a daily basis in our schools. We deal with the kids who have special needs. So now you want to hand a gun to a teacher that's already overworked, a teacher that's already stressed. You want to put a gun in their hands. Well, think about this. What happens if a teacher has a conflict with a student where a gun is not necessary to handle that situation, and that teacher gets so angry that the first thing they do is reach for that gun?
Absolutely.
What are they going to say then? What's going to happen then? Because here it is, you're telling us we are now being tasked with becoming sheriffs in our schools, and then if someone comes to us in our school building and does something that impacts us and our mental well-being, we now might retaliate. And I'm not saying every teacher will do that, but with the access to guns, it means that will become the first solution for anyone that's dealing with certain issues in the school, and that should never be an option that's given.
But let me say this, but you know what? It's not just your mental well-being; it's getting angry. All this mental health, mentally ill people don't attack other people. Typically, they hurt themselves. This is and the data has shown that about 1 out of 5 of these cases are committed by someone who's mentally ill. You have a lot of angry people out here, really. And people, in a moment, you can do something that you regret, or you may not regret for the rest of your life. I don't know if you have a conscience. Before I could, we're going to get to CK, Attorney CK Hoffler and Dwight McKee on the other side of the break. But I know that you have got to leave us because you've got a lot of things to do today, Jennifer Bishop Jenkins. Talk to me, because she just touched on something about all the things that teachers are not allowed to do in the name of teaching, but now you all can carry guns. And with minimal training, let me just put that in there, with minimal training, with not 24 hours of training, 18 hours of training. And now they're going to move this through in Louisiana. It's spreading, Jennifer.
This is not the solution. Everybody knows that. It's just insane, ridiculous.
and it's going to lead to teachers leaving the profession. It's going to lead to more traumatization in routine daily school. It is going to lead to more accidents. It's going to, people who become law enforcement are people that are selected because of a particular temperament. It's the work they want to do, the risks they're willing to take, and the massive years of training that they go through. And to hand a teacher a gun in the classroom around children when there's, I can't even. This is a stupid idea, and it's one born out of an industry that has so lied to the public about, more guns is the solution, more guns is the solution. Is this whole, no matter what, you got a bad guy with a gun, the only solution is a good guy with a gun.
Oh, gosh.
No, that just makes
crazy.
More guns. That is what the many U.S. senators are saying every day. So this is not the solution. Everybody knows it's not the solution. It's a desperate act by, I believe, a dying, whacked out movement of gun pushers that are trying desperately to look like they're relevant in this crisis. It shows, opinion polls show, that people who own guns across the vast majority of the country are starting to say things like, we need to ban assault weapons, we need to require a universal background check, we need to have a waiting limit before anybody can, we need to raise the limit on the age of who can buy these things. People who own guns and normally have been voting with them are beginning over this last insane period to get a clue that we need to do something to decrease the access to guns, which are always going to be dangerous. No matter whose hands they're in, they are dangerous. And the solution has to be common sense and reforms, and they are desperate. They're desperate because they know that the public is starting to turn against them. And then we're going to turn out at the polls in November, and we're going to make it clear what kinds of common sense thinking we want running our country.
Boy, let's talk about it, everybody. 773-763-9278. Of course, that's Jennifer Bishop Jenkins, gun victim family survivor. She lost three members of her family in one fell swoop to a neighbor, a minor, who had tried to kill his whole family, and no one did anything about it. Okay, my goodness, what a powerful testimony. I hope you'll be joining Jennifer and I. Jonathan Jackson, who's running for Congress, is going to be having a town hall meeting at the New Covenant Baptist Church on 77th Street, right on the 13th of June. Monday, the 13th of June, I'll be one of the moderators. Want you to be there. Want everybody to be there. It's from 6 to 8. Get there early because you're going to hear Jennifer's testimony and so many others. What are we going to do about this? What about arming teachers? What kind of environment? Do you want your 10-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 15-year-old, your 18-year-old? Do you want them in a classroom with a teacher who's armed? Who's to say that the teacher's all there? Hello? Oh, CK. I see some. This is going to be litigious, I think. It's going to be legal. And Dwight McKee, I can't wait for you to talk to us about really what this says about our society. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Commissioner Johnson?
Santita Jackson, bright and early, 7:30.
Oh, man, I'm not even speaking to you. Coming up smiling to me a couple of years ago. Oh, you're going to be so great here. Oh. Yeah, well, okay. I get no rest.
Well, you got the rest of the country awake as well.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You are not yanking my chain at all. But after I go to CK and to Dwight, I need you to talk about what can be done on the county level, or what you see, because you're in government, period. I mean, just locally, county level, statewide, and nationally, what you would like to see. I mean, I cannot imagine teachers having guns. Years ago, I shared this story. I went to I was in a vocal competition because I was active in choirs and choruses and chorales and madrigal singing when I was at Whitney Young. And during one of the local competitions, city competitions, we had to go to Clemente High School. Fine high school, fine high school. And this is back in the late 70s, like 79. And I am still traumatized to this day. We walked in and saw metal detectors. And literally all of us, because it wasn't the whole choir, it was different groups of us. So it was fewer than 20. We all literally grabbed each other's hands and walked through together. We were too scared to go to the restroom. Now, mind you, things have changed a lot in the past 40 years. That having been said, this is very unsettling. I wonder what it does to the culture of a school to know that your teacher has a gun. Yeah. CK?
Can you imagine being a kid? Can you imagine being a kid, Santita, where you go to school, you already have metal detectors, and now you know your teachers have guns?
No, I cannot. No.
That is probably one of the worst things for any child to have to deal with.
That's the thing. I can't imagine that. Dr. Reeves. I can't. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I can't even imagine that.
I just did a presentation on how legislation impacts and marginalizes Black and Brown students. So now you're telling me that I have to now worry about how some of these teachers will look at us Black and Brown students and probably point that gun to them to say I'm in charge.
Well, I want you. No. I want you to speak to that. But let me get to everybody else. But you need to speak to that, and maybe that's one of the evening talks we need to have, Dr. Reeves.
Thanks, everyone.
Because Black and brown children, particularly Black children, and the darker they are, the more they are adultified. Stand by. Hey everybody, teachers be armed. Before I go to the rest of my panel, I've got Paul from Seattle getting up real early in the morning. Paul, what's your comment?
Oh, good morning, Santita. Yeah. As someone else said, this idea of Army teachers, I get the F. I'm sorry, that's an F idea. And the reason is, I started teaching in 1984. I have taught all students from kindergarten up to college at one point or other in my career. And I know how kids are. I'll tell you this, that starting at age of adolescence, one thing I would suggest is going to happen is boring. It will be there to see if you can get the teacher's done. And I guarantee you, somebody will. I don't care if the teacher has it on his hip or his hip or locked in her desk, there will be there to get it. And once somebody does get one, okay, now what do you do? And this is just pranking. I tell you, 12, 13-year-olds, they think that, they're not. If you had one, 12 and 13-year-old boys are not the most sensible beings.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there will be at every age, starting at about 11, 12, dare to try, and they'll talk about it. They'll talk about we should try to get it. Not that they want to necessarily use it, but some of them will. But this is just a disaster waiting to happen. And the other thing is, because as someone else pointed out, the type of relationship you have with a student as a teacher is different than if you're a police officer. So if I have a gun in my hip, I have to be standoffish. No, you're not getting within 6 or 8 feet of me. You can stand and talk from there. You're not getting anywhere near me. And you can't teach like that. Kids want to surround you. They want to talk to you. They want to touch you. And you cannot have a gun on you and have a relationship that you need to have as a teacher. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And there are so many liability questions that I won't raise. There's too much
not enough time for that, but you get the idea.
Oh no! Well, look, that's why we have Attorney C.K. Hoffler here. C.K. Before we get to Dwight, and get to some amazing points that Dr. Reeves was making, and that's why I have all of you here today. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, liability. Matt from A. Well, let me give you this because I want you to put this in your pipe and smoke this. Matt Sowell from AM 950 Radio up in Minneapolis, St. Paul said, I know growing up in the Philadelphia school district that I would not have trusted some of my teachers to have a gun. They were explosive with anger at times. That was in the 80s, but I don't think it's a good idea at all. There will be more shootings. And if then, what happens if a kid gets the gun? I mean, what's the NRA going to do? I mean, CK, I just see this going. Talk about a slippery slope that we talked with Medea Benjamin about. I just don't see anything good coming out of this.
Good morning, Santita, and to the panel, to our audience. We are falling into an abyss of insanity. This is insanity to even have this discussion. It is legal insanity. It is moral insanity. It is legislative insanity. It is grassroots insanity. It's mental health insanity. It's insanity times 1,000 to even have this discussion. There are so many legal and liability issues associated with arming teachers that we'd have to have 10 shows to cover the legal analysis that would have to take place to have such crazy, insane measures in place to arm our teachers. Starting with number one, improper training. When we have these civil lawsuits, usually the claims are negligence claims. If the teacher shoots, why should the teacher be shooting? First of all, that right there, that's an insane concept. But if the teacher does use his or her arm, there's going to be a negligence claim because that teacher will not have been properly trained. That teacher is not law enforcement. That teacher does not know what to do with an arm. But even if that teacher in a previous life were trained as law enforcement, that's number one. Number two, why do they have an arm and who are they protecting themselves against? Children? That's liability number two. Because the parents would have to sign waivers. And the waiver would have to go like this. If something happens, something jumps off, i.e. a teacher shoots and kills someone, you are waiving your right to any litigation and involving the school from any liability. That is insanity in and of itself. No parent should ever sign, and I'm paraphrasing, but that would be the essence of the waiver that parents would have to sign. Negative. Never should happen. Never in the history of the world would I ever advise parents to sign any waiver relative to teachers being armed. Number three, the children. There are going to be parents who are going to say, if the teachers are going to be armed, I'm going to make sure my child is armed. Because, by the way, I've always believed that Ms. Johnson is crazy.
Oh, wow.
Because teachers are human beings as well. So now we're going to have a dynamic where parents are going to feel the need to put something in their children's backpack so their children can protect themselves against the teachers. Liability number three. Liability number four. I agree with Paula saying, I have boys. Boys are fascinated, particularly girls, particularly boys, with guns. They are going to find the gun of the teacher, the male or female, one way or the other, whether it's a dare or whatever. They're naturally, at a certain age, drawn to guns. And part of it is the stimuli that they receive through all these games, through television, through the internet, through looking at the phone. So now, because you're going to have a child whose mind is not developed, by the way, men's mind, the boys' mind development, we know from psychology, and just from statistics, don't fully develop to the age of 25. So now we're talking about children, adolescents, getting mad, finding a teacher's gun, and people can't be on 24/7, and maybe shooting to let out their frustration, shooting another student, shooting a teacher, shooting a principal, shooting. This is pandemonium, chaos, and insanity. So that's just another part of liability. Then we have the school's liability. I tell you this, if there is a principal that would sign off on this, a school board that would sign off on this, any regulators that would sign off on this, all of them need to do in their individual capacity collectively as a group for this level of
we might as well arm every. I'll tell you, the industry that's going to grow is the homeschooling industry, because people will take their children out of school. And I tell you, I'm a mother of two. Both my boys, one's in college, the other one attended college pretty soon. But I'll tell you this: there would never come a time where I would send my children to school if those teachers are armed. Period. End of discussion. Never, never, never. I would probably sue everybody at the school before I allow that to happen and have them tied up in litigation just to prevent those teachers from being armed. And I guess there would be a ton of parents that would support me in that. And that would be just so. This is going to be a legal quagmire and mess, and it's just, but again, insanity is the only word that I can think of for anyone to have this discussion, to seriously entertain this, because it's going to take us into a whole other dynamic of mass shooting, mass incarceration. Because guess what? Those kids, those teachers, a teacher may be having a bad day. We're going to now, and there's a mental health issue and a medical issue. Are we going to have access to the teacher's mental health records? Because before you arm them, you've got to be assured, otherwise you open yourself up to negligence, that they are of a mental position to be able to carry a gun, because they're going to be with our children. This is just crazy. Insanity. We need to kill it. We need to stop it. We need to do everything to prevent this.
I mean, Dwight McKee, she's giving us an hour, and she's giving us a whole lot to think about. Everybody has. I can't wait to hear from the callers and from you, Commissioner Brandon Johnson, who we can hear at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings here on WCPT, and Dr. Marnie Reeves, who really brought up some really interesting ideas about the adultification of Black and brown children and what this could mean. They could be more threatened by this than anybody. Wow. Dwight McKee, armed teachers. Wow. What about that?
Well, Santita, I'm the dean of the Alpha Project, which is a project we have with Marshall Hatch's son on the west side. Most of our kids are kids who are ex-felons, ex-convicts. They didn't make it in the school system. They do most of the shooting in the streets. They don't shoot kids in school because they don't go to school. They start their shooting about 3:15 every day. And so it is a real misunderstanding of what's happening with the culture if you think somehow waiting on somebody to shoot up a school every day is the norm. The norm is the kids shooting each other up on the street. And so when we do our program, is we have a residential program where for 9 months our kids live with us 24/7 and get them out of the environment, which is an environment, a culture of violence and drugs. You have to really kind of change what they do every day and who they see every day, and give them a different value system, a new attitude, expose them to life, to change their self-concept, because the culture defines them as being gangster. If somehow the culture is made gangster in Black Anonymous, then you really ain't Black unless you've been to jail. You really ain't Black unless you've shot somebody. You really are not Black unless you're a gangster. And so you have to change that environment and that thinking.
Well, wait, Dwight. Hold on. What if you have a teacher who assumes that you are gangster? Who assumes that you're not a 10-year-old kid. They perceive you as an adult. What will that armed teacher, how will they discipline a child?
The culture assumes us to be gangsters. It's not just the teachers, but the police. When you go into a store, you follow because the culture assumes that you're a gangster. And so what happens to a lot of these kids is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So they live up to those expectations or down those expectations. And so if the teacher is automatically on recoil and is already in fear of their lives, they're defending themselves against their own illusions and their own mythology. So if you jump up because you're angry with a teacher, his first assumption is you're jumping up because you're going to do violence to him necessarily. So the first thing he's going to do is defend himself and pull his gun out and escalate the crisis. I think teachers should be armed, but they should be armed with gift cards and be armed with tickets to the circus and be armed with resources. So when they see these kids with diminished self-concept and self-esteem, is they can help subsidize these kids and reach out and envelop them and emotionally be able to analyze what they're going through. One of the things about the kids in this child the school, they said, is that the rest of the kids bullied him because he didn't have nice gym shoes, and bullied him how he dressed, and bullied him because he stuttered. Well, if this teacher could have recognized that and have reached out to really kind of subsidize some of that, it would have taken him out of that angry zone to believe the world is just against him. The great part of the PTA, the Parents Teacher Association that we used to have, is that it was a relationship between a parent and a teacher, and they could talk with each other about what's going on with the child.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And they could put together their own program to subsidize the deficiency of the child.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have nobody in the PTA. One of the reasons because many of the parents are in jail themselves, or working 3 or 4 jobs, or are not together, don't have an association, or thirdly, really don't care what's happening with the child in school. And so they have no community that then reaches out and serve the needs, emotional and intellectual needs of the child.
Well, Dwight, hold on. Absolutely. But I want to bring on Carrie, and then I want to bring on Dr. Reeves, because Dr. Reeves, before I bring on Carrie, and let's cue Carrie up, Devin, you were making a point, Dr. Reeves, about Black and brown children. Please.
So one of the things I think everyone needs to understand when you're having these conversations about what teachers should and should not do, you have to first recognize the reality that not every teacher that's in a classroom loves the students that they're teaching. Okay? Now, we have a situation in this country that's never ending. It's always been there. It's in the history. It's embedded in the life of this country, where Black and brown children are seen as the aggressor. So imagine giving a gun to one of those teachers who's really just here for the benefit, really just here because they think this is a job, and that kid, in their words, mouths off to them. Now, that teacher who really does not like kids has that gun and might use it. So we already have the school to prison pipeline that's an issue. We already have legislation that does not help to discipline our children or guide them in the proper way. Now we want to add legislation where teachers who believe that these kids are bottom line disrespectful can carry a gun that they're technically supposed to use to protect those kids, but might turn those guns on the kids that they don't like. I think there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had here, because again, we're looking from the school to prison pipeline that's always existed in this country, and now we're saying to those teachers who believe that a lot of those kids should be in prison, let's just eliminate and annihilate the problem, which they believe are the Black and brown kids in our schools.
That's a heck of a thing.
It shouldn't just be somebody waking up one morning and saying, let's do this because we just had a shooting in a school. These are conversations that should have been happening and continuously happening as to what are the best strategies to protect our schools. What are the best strategies to remove guns from our streets? Not just jumping up and saying, well, give a teacher a gun. Teacher said it best. What about the mental health issues? What about all these other issues that we're dealing with? You give somebody a gun who does not like kids, who's angry, what are they going to do? Turn on those kids.
Wait. And wait a minute. And Dr. Reeves, they're not, then they're not mentally ill. They're angry. Y'all just stop it. Because Dwight just brought up the case, talked about Salvador Ramos. Because I think you need to deal with bullies too. These mean people who make other people's life a living hell. There's some people just mean and evil. And they need to be held to account as well for diminishing people and perverting people and killing people's spirits. We need to deal with them too. Let me go to you, Carrie from Champaign. Oh, shit. Carrie, what's on your mind, sweetie?
Good morning, Santita. To you again.
Good morning.
The thing that gets me, good morning. The thing that gets me is that we're setting these children up to have PTSD in the classroom that's already going on now because of all these guns. And think about this. So when a parent comes to us to see a teacher about their own child, are they going to get, the teacher's going to think that the parent is angry and may pull out a gun and shoot the parent?
Wow.
Or are we going to start having PTA meetings where parents bring their guns and teachers got their guns and a shoot may break out because they can't agree on anything. And it's just heightened. And when you got it's shame on the politicians, shame on the people who vote for them, who vote for their own destruction, their own demise. You're voting to kill your own way of life when you do this. And what really irks me is that there is no adult in the room. It's like Dr. D said, we got gangsters. We're going to a gangster society. Where's OSHA on this? We don't have anything for OSHA because the money is so deep. If Mitt Romney can get $13 million from the NRA and a long list of others, we're doomed.
No, but we're not doomed. We're the ones. But Carrie, let me tell you, we're not doomed. We have to get active. These other people God, no, I'm just saying to you, Dr. King said, evil men plot, therefore good men must plan. I want you to stay right here because I want to get closing thoughts from my guest. But stay here. We're going to talk a little bit on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and Santita Jackson and Friends. Okay, just stay right there because I want you to finish your comment. But I do want to get to, in about a little under a minute, you do radio, Illinois Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, whose show is on WCPT here every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time after Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Hello. Your closing thoughts in just under a minute.
Absolutely, real quick. I think the key is that the Dr. He made this very clear. We need more adults in the building in our school communities that are actually familiar with the issues. We place too much of our responsibilities on educators. As a teacher myself, look, I wasn't trained as a social worker or counselor. The problem is we don't have social workers and counselors in our schools to deal with some of the manifestations of trauma that they're experiencing by living in isolated poverty. I think the second thing is, besides those investments, we have to take on the NRA. What we've done at the county level, we actually can deploy a tax on arms and ammunition and using that tax revenue to actually reduce violence. The NRA, of course, sued that law, and the Illinois Supreme Court overturned it. So we have to do at the county level is look at the Blair-Holt bill, look at the idea of Pendleton bill that's in Congress, and taking out those parts that we can actually pass at the county level to really challenge the NRA, the infrastructure, as you mentioned, across the country that's allowing these guns to flow in these communities that have been disinvested in. The key is investment, and that's what we have to do. We have to challenge the policy around how the access that people have to ammunition, as well as the arms that has gotten obviously well
a lot of control.
Everybody, I've got about 30 seconds for you, Dr. Reeves.
So I think one of the things that we need to understand is that no teacher went to school to become a police officer. We need to have more courageous people in office. We need to have communities coming together, teachers, parents, educators coming together to fight back against politicians who continue to take money from a lot of these gun manufacturers. And we need to speak up and ensure that we're protecting not just our children in the schools, but the educators. Everyone that's working in the school needs to be protected. And it should not be left up to teachers to do that.
That's right. Every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can hear WAOK. You can hear Attorney C.K. Hoffler. She's got her show. I've got a tight 30 seconds, Attorney Hoffler. What do you make of this? It's spreading.
Going into an abyss of insanity, Santita. Like I said, the only people who will benefit are the NRA and the lawyers who are going to be tied up in litigation and out of a lot of business. The children, our society, our communities will fail. It will be devastating and awful. This is insanity.
Oh, and this is here. Dwight McKee, 30 seconds, tight 30.
Dwight McKee dropped.
Oh, well, Dwight dropped. Well, you know what? I want you all to get him back up if you can. But everybody, we're going to get some lengthier closing remarks on the other side on the Santita Jackson Show, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I want you to go on over there. And hey, everybody, and on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, I hope to see you on Sunday on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We're going to have Kentucky Senate candidate, the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, Charles Booker. Think about these things. You know what I told you? Take these calls to the water cooler, if you will. We've got to have some substantive conversations about the things that matter most. We have a lot of big conversations about things that matter so little to us in the grand scheme of things. Think about what it will be like for teachers to be armed. Every teacher doesn't have the best of intentions. Every student doesn't have the best of intentions. If you add guns to the mix, it can be deadly. Deadlier than it is right now. Most American children are killed by guns, and most people who die from gun violence die by suicide. There's something going on in America. We are approaching spiritual death. Dr. King talked about that, and we've got to deal with that, everybody. We're in a moral crisis, not just a legislative crisis, a moral crisis, and we must go there in order to resolve this. I love you, everybody. Stay right here. Santita Jackson Show. Hey, David. Hey, D-Ray. Sending you all my love. Laura, everybody, my morning stars. Can't wait to be with you on Sunday on Keep Up Alive and on Monday here on the Santita Jackson Show. Thank you, Devin, for a great show. Love you, everybody. All right. Do I have anyone still there, Devin?
Dr. Reeves.
Okay, Dr. Reeves, why don't you make your closing thought? Give us that closing thought before we go.
I actually just want to repeat myself that none of us are here as educators to be police officers. We realistically need to get the help of the community in working with us. We have a lot of parents that, we want to have them work with us in the school, and sometimes they're not available to do that. But we need more voices, more courageous voices to fight against those politicians who continue to take money from these gun manufacturers, because it's not helping our communities. The decisions need to be made in a courageous way. We need to fight back in everything that we're doing to ensure that not even gun parts are out there on the streets for our children to get. Dwight said it. He said a lot of the kids that he works with in his organization, they're doing shootings at 3:15. That shouldn't be the case either. You shouldn't be doing it during the school day or after the school day. So there's something that we're lacking in our community that we need to get back, and that is actually community, where we're actually working together to ensure the best of everyone that's living in those areas that we consider our community. And if we cannot start from home, let's start from school. It is absolutely necessary.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. I give a shout out to Mrs. Anita Beard. She was the head of our PTA at the John J. Pershing Elementary School that I did K through 8th grade. Alternately, it was the top public school in the city of Chicago, top public elementary school. And Mrs. Beard worked very, very hard. I went to school with her. Her daughter, Kristen, was my classmate, and her son, Rusty, was a year ahead of us. And she worked so hard, and she galvanized the parents, and she bugged them. But guess what? They had an excellent school. And I want to thank Mrs. Beard today. I'm going to find a way to reach out to her today because of her love and care for her children, but for all of the children in the school. She demanded, and these parents demanded the very best for our children. And the very best is a teacher like my Miss Irene B. Smith, my first and second grade teacher. She would play the piano, Marnie. You know, when we would sing "My Country 'Tis of Thee, Sweet Land of Liberty," that we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and we did that. And then she would play, different classical music, to expose our ears and bring. That's what school is supposed to be about, everybody. And that is not just some bourgeois dream. That's what education is supposed to do. My parents grew up poor. They didn't have poor values. That's where we are. You've got people who have an impoverished value system, whether they are financially wealthy or financially poor, somewhere in between. We've got to deal with this. We've got a moral crisis here in America. And do you know what's happening? We are losing ground diplomatically. People don't trust America, Marnie, the way they used to trust America. Because they're like, you don't even have a grip on what's happening in your country. I heard Richard Haas. I heard Richard Haas, who's the head of the Council on Foreign Relations, talking this morning on Morning Joe. Because I listened to all the shows. I'm a little late getting over here, so I'm trying to take in as much news as I can. Al Jazeera, BBC. It doesn't matter. South African broadcast news. I'm listening to everything. We are taking hits internationally with all the things that we have done that have been objectionable and wrong. But now people are saying, you know what, that was okay. When you've been dropping bombs over here, when you were on the wrong side in Vietnam, when you have been wrecking other people's countries and upending their democratically held governments, including Ukraine in 2014. That was okay because you know what? You all kept a lid on your thing in America. Well, you don't do that now. So we don't trust you.
Yeah.
And when people don't trust you, then you know what? They don't really want to use your dollar as their reserve currency. Do you know what that's going to be like for Americans, for the dollar not to be the reserve currency for the world? And that is slowly happening. And we're watching it because we're watching our standard of living drop.
Absolutely.
You know that. Marty, you live between here and Africa and Jamaica. You know what's happening all over the world. Yeah, I'm putting it out there. It's true. You're like, oh, I'm going to go to the Congo to relax for 6 weeks. Okay, I got you, boo. No, but when you leave the United States, you get a chance you see the world you see us through somebody else's eyes.
Absolutely.
And that's important. Don't you think that's important, Marnie? Dr. Reeves? I slipped into Marnie, my girl. Marnie. I
think one of the things that is missing a lot of times is that people don't get to see themselves from outside of their space. Okay? They're so used to seeing themselves within their borders. But if they learn to travel outside of their comfort zone, they'll see life a little bit differently.
Yes. Yeah, and it's important. That's part of education too. And the best teachers bring that to their students. The best schools bring that to their students. And we're busy trying. We're underfunding education and overcompensating the Pentagon. We're paying for that. Several people I spoke to yesterday said, look, honey, I need a stimulus check. Push has been open 6 days a week throughout this pandemic. Pampers people have needed, we've been getting them. Formula, my father's been begging for them. So these are basic needs, not wants, needs that people have. Ukraine asked for $24 billion a year. They said, just give us off the top $2 billion a month. Okay, wow. We gave them 40. 40. And we're going to give them some more. We are giving them more in terms of military hardware. What? And what for what? What's in it for us? Heaven knows you shouldn't invade a country. I get that. I'm not crazy. But we shouldn't be meddling in other people's affairs either. It's all of that. And all of this is the reason that I'm not on network television. But I'm good with that. I am so good with that. Now, we need to grow up in our politics, and I need you to call 202-224-3121 and let your federal representative know how you feel and what your thinking is. And you need to tell other people to do it. Tell them. Bernie Sanders was right, as we heard Medea Benjamin say at the top of the show, Marnie. He said, I'm not getting any phone calls. See, when he does not get phone calls, and when your representative when they do not get phone calls, they are disincentivized from responding to you. And then you say, oh, why didn't they vote this way? Because you didn't call. It's a numbers game. That's why when Americans said, do not give Goldman Sachs its $770 billion, we called Congress in such a high volume, it broke the system. My brother was in Congress at the time, Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. It broke the system. And so what did they do, Marnie? Over the weekend, they fixed the system. And they rigged the system so that only so many calls can get through. Okay? My brother called into a radio, they called him to interview him because he was one of the congresspersons, like the majority, who said, do not give them this money to bail them out. We don't need to do that. And he broke down in tears. I said, oh my gosh, I can hear my brother. He's about to cry. And then I heard him. Because he's my brother, I know him. And President Obama, then Senator Obama, was running for president the first time. This was in 2008, remember, as you recall. And he went to the Black Caucus and said, look, we need your votes, guys. Give them this money. And they were vehemently against it. But they said, this is Senator Obama. We don't want to go against him. We want to help him. Boom. There it is. You got to call. You got to let them know. Then when he became president, he told the heads of the Wall Street firms who were never convicted of anything, even though they robbed us blind. He said, look, guys, you need to do X, Y, and Z because I'm the only one standing in between you and the pitchforks. And they did nothing to these people while they raped and pillaged America. The amount of our bailout, Marty, is the amount of our debt. We went into debt saving Wall Street for what? It is structurally unequal and unsustainable. Ridiculous. No. Well, Dr. Reeves, I'm so glad you were with us today. I know you did not expect to be here, but I'm glad you were here. Sending you much love, my dear sister. Are you still there, Marnie? Well, I think she might have gone. She might have gone to class.
She's there.
Okay. Dr. Reeves, I'm going to let you go. Do you want to say anything before you go? Dr. Reeves?
You hear yourself, maybe? Because it says she's on hold. She says she's on the air still.
I think she's muted. I think she is muted. Hey, Abraham, my sweetie down in Venezuela, I'm sending you much, much love. The Summit of the Americas, that's a joke. I mean, anytime the president of the United States, who is a president of a country in the Americas, tells you, well, I'm not going to invite you, and you, because I don't like your politics. In other words, because Venezuela, you won't give me all your oil. Are you for real? They better wake up. This is 2022, not 1922, and it sure is not 1822. The people off of whom you have profited so much, have risen up. Oh, yes, we've got the Queen's Jubilee in England, and God bless the Queen. I have a lot of respect for her. She's been the matriarch of a family and of a nation, and of a commonwealth of nations, quite frankly. But this commonwealth is breaking up because people want their freedom. They want their money. They want to live their lives their way. Can you object to that? I certainly do not. So, hey, onward to freedom, everybody. And I hope to see you on Keep Up Alive on Sunday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and again here on Monday. Sending you so much love. I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, everybody. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be with you. And I'm so glad that you choose to share your time with me. I love you, everybody. Be good to each other. Be good to each other. Be safe this weekend. Love you. Thank you, Devin, for a great show.